Welcome back, Rita Marie. Good to see you again. Absolutely. I have this really wonderful description of things that you did, and I'm going to just read a little bit of it. And it starts beginning in 1993 with your move to Costa Rica. You were seeking a method of social and emotional learning that could be used reliably and efficiently in all arenas of life. So 10 years of research led to realize that empathy is attained through conscious connection to feelings and needs, and insight is accessed through heart-brain coherence. And the discovery of synergy between empathy and insight maximizes our social and emotional intelligence, builds resilience, and enhances performance. The connection practice resulted from this, and you are implementing the connection practice all over the world. You know, and I read that and lots of other stuff, and I kept thinking to myself, you know, it's true. One person can change the world, and you are doing that. So welcome, and I will make you the host.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Jeff. So, hello, friends. It is good to be back among you. Wow, a lot has happened since I last saw you. I can imagine that you've had some stress going through the coronavirus. And here in California, we've had fire danger on top of coronavirus right here in my town. We had evacuation warnings, didn't have to evacuate. So even my dog Millie has been stressed out. I want to show you a picture of my beloved little Millie here. So this is Millie prior to the coronavirus and the fire danger. And this is Millie now. You know, so it seems that this whole coronavirus and all these disasters have been stressful for all of us. And, you know, whoever thought that we would be competing to wear the most fashionable mask of all things? Whoever would have dreamed that this would become the latest fashion? So things have certainly changed since I saw you last. Now, I don't mind wearing a mask. I'm happy to protect myself and others. But I have to admit that when I have my mask on, I always have this little feeling that I'm hiding something. And when I go to the grocery store and I look around at all the faces that are masked, I don't feel at ease in the same way that I feel at ease when faces are uncovered. And, you know, I got to thinking about that feeling, and I wondered if it was because it reminds me of a dream that I had back in my 20s. In this dream, I was with my dog, Abby at that time, Millie now, and I was also with a friend, Diana. And Diana has a cognitive disability, and she just blurts out whatever comes into her mind. And I just love that about her. She's so spontaneous. So in my dream, I was walking along with Abby and Diana, very happily, just having a walk. And then suddenly we came into a large banquet hall where hundreds of people were partying. However, it didn't feel like a party to me, because I noticed right away that there was a smile plastered on every face like this. And all the smiles looked like masks. And it was so terrifying. So I grabbed Abby and I grabbed Diana and I ran out of there quick as I could. I felt like I was running for my life. I was so scared, and I was so scared it woke me up. So after waking up, I processed that dream And I realized that I felt so safe with Abby, my dog, and Diana, my cognitively disabled friend, because they were not capable of putting on masks. They were just naturally authentic. So in that moment, I committed to authenticity as a major value in my life. But how to achieve it? That was the question. How to achieve it in myself or be helpful to other people in achieving authenticity. So the co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, had something to say about that. I'm going to share my screen again so you can see a quote from him. So Charles wrote in Jesus Christ Heals, "We are all in our personality wearing the mask that conceals the real, the spiritual I am. Jesus shattered that mask and revealed the spiritual human being. He also taught the way by which we may all do what he did." Now, there is an artist named H.G. Lindecker who painted this beautiful picture here because he had the same vision of Jesus showing us how we can take off our masks. So I invite you to look carefully at this picture. Look at the expression on Jesus' face. What do you think he's thinking? You know, I'm just wondering if maybe he's thinking how unnecessary to put these masks on that cause so much suffering. You know, he's just kind of contemplative, holding that mask in his hands. And look in the bottom right corner of the picture. You see the masks discarded there, some of them shattered, which relates to Charles Fillmore's definition, shattering the mask. And then in the upper left corner there, see all of the people waiting in line to have Jesus help them take off their masks. And the only one that doesn't have a mask is the little child, hasn't put a mask on yet. So what does this mean for us? I'm going to stop my share again. What does this mean for us? Well, first, let's take a look at why we put a mask on in the first place. Why would we do that? Well, I've talked in the past about a part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is that fight, flight, or freeze response that we have because it's just trying to protect us. It has a positive intent. It's trying to protect us. But did you know that the amygdala is constantly asking in the back of our minds, am I safe? Do I matter? 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 Did you know the amygdala in the back of our minds asks that question 12 to 100 times per second? Per second. Something to think about, isn't it? That's going on constantly in the back of our minds because the amygdala is trying to protect us. Am I safe? Do I matter? Am I safe? Do I matter? So as we grow up, gosh, we have some painful experiences where we don't feel safe and don't perceive that we matter. And so these memories are stored in the amygdala and get triggered by things going on in our present lives. So on top of that, we become fearful of anybody finding out that we feel unsafe or unworthy because we're afraid that then we'll be further hurt. And so what do? We love ourselves. So what we do is we put a mask on to try to protect ourselves. The mask has a positive intent. We put that mask on because we love ourselves, because we're trying to take care of ourselves. However, friends, isn't it lonely? So lonely behind this mask. We feel separate, hidden, scared, worthless. Sounds like somebody needs to mute, Jeff. I'm guessing you're hearing that noise too. Somebody isn't muted, so I'm just inviting you to use that.
Yes, Greg, it's you, and I've been trying to mute you, but would you do that yourself? Greg? Okay, hopefully he's heard that. Sorry.
No problems. No worries. We're all friends here. So, like I said, we just feel so lonely behind this mask and scared and worthless. And as you all know here in this Center for Universal Oneness, that Jesus came to tell us that we are ultimately safe and that we always matter because we're expressions of God. We are the living Christ and we don't need a mask. And yet, we still put the mask on at times, don't we? You know, if we believe that message, you would think that we would just, oh, I'm safe, I matter, and just drop the mask. But we don't. And why is that? Why is that even though we believe in this liberating message, that we do let that mask come up and we believe it can protect us somehow when in reality it doesn't really? So why? Could it be that we need to get better at helping each other reassure that protective part of our brain to help each other? Because think about it, friends. What is Jesus doing in that picture? Isn't he helping people to know that they're safe and that they matter? And then the mask just drops off. Don't you imagine that's what Jesus was doing? That with his presence, with his words, that he was reassuring people, and this part of the brain that was scared and putting the mask on said, oh gosh, I guess I don't need it after all, and just letting that mask drop off. So the people aren't doing it by themselves, are they? They have another person there. In this case, it's Jesus, but there's another person that is reassuring them, helping them to drop that mask. So as many of you know, I developed the connection practice that Jeff was talking about earlier, and it's also a way to drop our own mask and to help others drop their masks. A few years ago, I was in a situation where I noticed my mask just popped right on, on my face. What was happening is that my organization had been in a partnership with another organization, and that organization was struggling financially, and they needed to restructure our agreement. So I was open to that, and I was to work this out with one of their leaders. Let's call him Victor. And so we were to get together, Victor and I, and to work out this agreement. So when I sat down with Victor, I noticed right away that he was talking negatively about people that we both knew. So I was uncomfortable with that. And then he was going way off the subject and sometimes talking negatively about things in his own organization and off on personal subjects, just way off the track. And when I tried to bring him back to talk together about coming up with a new agreement, he said to me, well, your work's not going anywhere without us. Well, when he said that, my amygdala went into the freeze response. You know, I was so surprised at this comment that I just shut down. And we didn't make any progress. We ended the meeting, you know, feeling disconnected and just not getting anywhere. So now I had a second meeting with Victor coming up, and I wanted to be better prepared. So I did my connection practice, and I'm not going to go into the details of it, but as I've said, it's a combination of empathy and insight, a skill that helps us to meet challenges in life with our empathy and our insight. So in doing my empathy, I got to the point where I realized that my main need was emotional safety with Victor. I didn't feel emotionally safe with him. And then I guessed what he might be needing. And because Victor was always putting other people down, including me, I guessed that Victor had a deep need to matter. And the moment that I guessed that he needed to matter, my heart opened. And suddenly, instead of feeling threatened by him, I felt compassion for him. I thought, oh, I wonder what has happened to him, that he's constantly putting others down. He must be so scared. And so now I knew that I needed emotional safety, and I was guessing Victor needed to matter, but I needed an insight so that I could really see how we could make progress at this meeting. So I went into this coherent state and asked, what do I need to know about this? And the answer that came really surprised me. The answer was, less is more. Less is more. Well, those words had never come out of my mouth before. I knew that phrase, but I hadn't used it. So I take my insights seriously, and I looked at the agenda that I had written out for our meeting, and I had 5 different requests of Victor on my agenda. And I thought, less is more. Well, maybe I need to get this down to fewer requests. So I got it down to 1 request. And then just prior to going off to my second meeting with Victor, I realized what I really wanted to do was create emotional safety for myself. And I was going to do that by giving Victor empathy, because I know that when you're giving another person empathy, that it's very unlikely they're going to come at you. So I was taking care of myself by knowing I could be strong and feel strong and give him empathy. And I also knew that now I really wanted to be the kind of person that would help Victor know that he mattered. So that was my state of mind going into the second meeting. So when I sat down with Victor for the second time, once again, he started, talking about people that we knew negatively and doing the same things that he was doing in the first meeting. But this time, instead of being surprised and being a little nervous and scared of Victor, instead this time I just reflected back what I thought he might be feeling or needing, like just saying, wow, Victor, it sounds like you felt really frustrated and you needed some support. Is that right? Yes, that's right. And yeah, it sounds like you were upset in that situation because you were needing some respect. Is that right? Yes, exactly. So I was just guessing, sincerely, friends, guessing what this man was feeling and needing. And so then finally, after listening for quite a while, I came with my 1 request. And Victor said, oh, sure, we can do that. And we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. Oh, what a relief to make some progress. So, in the first meeting, I'd been triggered and I didn't get my need for emotional safety met. And Victor must have gotten triggered somehow too and didn't get his need to matter met. Our amygdalas were in charge. Am I safe? Do I matter? Am I safe? Do I matter? But in the second meeting, just by taking the time to really get into empathy and insight, we made progress. And I left that meeting feeling truly, authentically connected to Victor. So our masks had fallen away, friends. We'd put the masks up, but they'd fallen away. So to return to my question, if we believe Jesus' message that we're ultimately safe and that we do matter, then why do we often keep our masks on? Isn't it because we need the experience, not just the belief, but the experience of the Christ through each other to help us to reassure that protective part of our brain, to help us really know that we are safe and that we do matter? We need the experience through each other. And each of us can learn to be that person that helps the other person take their mask off. So recently, I had a very inspiring experience. I had a woman contact me. Let's call her Jan. Jan is a single mom. She adopted 2 little girls when they were babies, and now they are both teenagers. And Jan called me just struggling financially, struggling going through the coronavirus with 2 teenagers, just having a terrible time. And she'd heard about the connection practice. And so I told her I'd be happy to teach her what might be helpful. And so I mailed her these boards. We use these connection practice boards to help people learn this quickly. So I mailed her some boards, and then I taught her the connection practice online. And I could see, that she kind of, the ah of empathy, and then the aha of insight. So by the time we finished, she was calmer and clearer. And a week later, she called me up and she said, "You would not believe what happened." She said, "My oldest daughter," let's call her Audrey. Audrey has been a germaphobe all her life. I've tried to talk her out of it in the past. I've told her things like, "Oh, don't give those germs so much power. You've got a strong immune system. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to be afraid of germs." But it never really made any difference. She's always been compulsive about washing her hands and getting into places where there's germs. So Audrey works in a nursing home, and they had just gotten the report of their first case of coronavirus in their nursing home. So Audrey was scared to death to go back to work. Said, "Mom, I'm not going to work. I cannot go to work." And so Jan said that instead of giving her platitudes this time, or a pep talk, you could say, instead she sat down with these connection practice boards with her daughter Audrey. And they worked through her feelings and needs, and got to her main need. And her main need was physical safety. And so then Jan led her daughter into the insight. And she had an insight. And it was that actually what she was scared of was death. That was at the heart of it. Now, this was a very inexperienced person with the connection practice. She could have just gone, "Oh my gosh, what do I do now?" But instead, she went right back and said, "Well, let's do your feelings and needs around death." So they did that. And Audrey identified her main need around death was loss of connection. Connection. And she feared losing connection with the people that she loved. And when she did her insight, she realized that this had been amplified when her beloved adopted grandmother had died, because she felt so connected to her grandmother. And so once again, this mother had the good wisdom to take her through the next level, to process her feelings and needs around the death of her grandmother. And when she did that, Audrey said, really, my main need there was belonging, that, Grandma just always made me feel like I belonged in this family. And so then Audrey did another insight. And this time her insight was that the reason that this was such a deep need for her was because her mother had given her away at birth, and that she had struggled to feel like she really belonged. Now, this was an issue that had never been talked about before in the family. This had never come to light before. And when it did, Audrey said, "Mom, thank you for helping me work through this. Thank you so much, because now I truly feel like I belong. I belong." And And you know what, Mom? I think I can go back to work now. So for me, this story was just amazing that this mother who had just learned this, you know, a week later, takes her daughter through 3 levels of fear to get to the healing of a lifelong issue and help her daughter in the present be able to go back to work. So, you know, at the heart of it, what Audrey needed to know was that she was safe and that she mattered, that she belonged. And that's what she got to in this situation. So isn't it amazing that this mother was able to turn from platitudes to becoming the Christ for her daughter, stepping into being the living Christ, helping her daughter drop that mask of fear. I was just in awe to hear that. Back in 2008, my husband told me that he'd had a mask on all his life. And I was shocked. I had no idea, after being married to him for 16 years, that all that time he had not been able to be authentic. I was truly shocked. I just had no idea that that's what was going on, that there was a mask there and a man I really didn't know. I hadn't been skillful enough to help him feel safe and that he mattered at the deepest level so he could come out of hiding. So we divorced in 2009. I just, you know, I just didn't have the know-how then to get under that mask. So 10 years later, I met Ricardo here in San Jose. And I knew that when we first came together, because of experiences that we'd had in the past, both of us had had some pain in relationships in the past, I could see right away that there was a mask going on to our faces as we were very first getting to know each other. But by this time, I was a lot more skillful in knowing how to drop my own mask and how to help him drop his, how to reassure him with my thoughts, words, and actions that he truly was safe and that he mattered with me. So in no time at all, our masks fell away and we learned to continually communicate, every day to communicate, you are safe and you matter. To use our words every day to communicate that most basic message so that we are constantly outdistancing this little voice in our head that's vigilant, trying to protect us, but we're outdistancing it by continually, proactively communicating, beloved, you are safe and you matter. So I want to share my screen again. So last year, almost exactly a year ago, friends, August 25th last year, we got married at Unity Village, and we are keeping our masks off. You know, at this point in my life, I am just in awe of the emotional safety and the honesty that we can experience in our relationship because we've learned how to keep those masks off, that we've learned to give empathy at that deep level. So I have revisited my scary dream, the one where all the people had these masks on, because now I know, instead of running, I could walk into that banquet hall and I could go up to each person, creating safety for myself by giving them empathy, and just help them gently drop that mask. And all it is a matter of learning. I'm not a saint. I'm no, you know, ascended being. It's just something I learned. It's just something I learned to do differently. so that now instead of running for my life, instead of having that need for my own emotional safety, now my need is to contribute to other people being able to drop their masks, to feel safe, and to know they matter. So friends, I'm sure that there are many times in your life when you have been the living Christ in such an incredible way with your friends or your family, where you have been able to reassure them so deeply that they are safe and that they matter, that they've dropped their mask, if they've been in fear, that suddenly with your reassurance that that protective part of the brain said, oh, I guess I am okay. It's all right. I'm safe and I matter, and I can be my true self. I don't have to hide. I'm sure that you have done that for many people in your life. And when you do that, you know, you're just like Jesus in that picture. Just like Jesus, helping others to just drop that mask because you know the truth that sets you free, that you are ultimately safe and you always matter. So, friends, I'd like to lead you into a meditation now. I invite you to get comfortable in your chair. And I invite you to close your eyes and if you're comfortable with it, to put your hand on your heart. Just invite you to drop all of your attention down into that beautiful heart. And now let's breathe as if breathing through the heart. Deep rhythmic breaths. The breath of spirit in and out. Breathing in deeply and breathing out. And now I invite you to bring that picture of Jesus taking off the masks to mind. Invite you to just put yourself into that picture. See the people all there waiting in line with their masks on. See Jesus there seated, helping them one by one, being the Christ for them so that they feel safe and that they matter. And now, in this picture, you realize you don't have your mask on, and you're there to help. And so you walk up to Jesus and you say, I'm here to help. And he looks at you, nods his head and says, yes. And he steps away and you sit down, you take his seat. And now as you look at the line of people with their masks on, you see someone that you know. This is a person that perhaps you've had some challenges with, someone that you guess has a mask on and feels lonely and insecure behind that mask. So take a moment to just truly identify who that person is in your life, a person you'd like to help. Help them drop their mask. Who is that person in your life who's got a mask on? Who's feeling scared and worthless and lonely behind that mask? Who is that? And now that you have that person in mind, you see that person in line with a mask on. and you motion with your hand, oh, come here, come here. And this person comes and sits beside you, and you whisper in their ear, you are safe and you matter. And you say it again. So it goes deep into their heart, into their soul. You are safe and you matter. And as you say those words, their mask drops into your hand. And like Jesus, you look at this mask and you are now feeling joy. You're feeling joy because you look up and you see this person's face, this beautiful face, no longer in hiding. You see this face glowing, this beautiful spiritual being before you, glowing, smiling, liberated from that mask. And so you savor the joy. So grateful to have been able to be of service. So grateful to see this beautiful human being, this spiritual being, in all this person's glory. And now, when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. So friends, when we sincerely communicate to others that you are safe and you matter, we are rising up as the living Christ, shattering those masks, revealing the spiritual human being. I invite you in the week to come to set an intention that in every interaction that you have with others this week, that you will proactively communicate, you're safe and you matter. And then I invite you to just feel the thrill as the masks bite the dust, because they will. Amen.